documentation and things that we can track and go back to. So again, welcome everyone. I know most of you, unless you're a brand new family and have just joined us, but my name is Mandy and I'm the Senior Director of our Young Athletes. So I'm sure I've known many of you for quite some time. So again, thank you guys all for logging on and giving us a chance just to really, we just want this to really be kind of an organic conversation with you guys. Again, we are going to kind of review Young Athletes. I know most of you are very familiar with that because you've been a part of it, but we just want to make sure that you guys kind of understand our vision and where we're going. So we're going to be just sharing a lot of information with you. We're going to introduce you to a lot of all of the Special Olympics Colorado staff that you might not be familiar with. But again, we are just really excited about this opportunity to have the chance to kind of, again, empower your children to take the next step. So we're going to walk through with you guys what that means and what your next steps are going to be. We've been working really hard the last couple of years. We know that this transition can be a tricky one, and it's kind of new to all of us because, you know, we've had young athletes around now for almost, gosh, we're going into our 14th year. So we do have a robust group of our young athletes that have been involved with us that are now ready for that transition. So again, this meeting is really just dedicated to spending some time, you know, talking with you guys and collaborating and getting your questions answered. But I do want to preface it all just by saying, again, we're not just cutting you off from young athletes. We are here to support you as much as we can and help make it a smooth transition. So again, we're collectively working as a staff to make sure that we identify the challenges and all the things that are going to come with this process. So again, I just want to, again, welcome you guys. We might have some additional people join.
Yep. Change your view to
This one.
And I'm Ashton, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm your Young Athletes coordinator. I'm the one that sends you all your wonderful emails that I know you love so much. Thank you for bearing with me and reading my emails so that we can get your kids in the right direction with SoCo. So welcome.
Awesome. So before I share my screen, I'm just going to open it up. We're going to do some staff introductions, just so, again, you guys can put a name to a face and make sure that you guys understand all the different staff members that are part of this group and that are committed to helping transition your kiddos to the next step. So staff, if you guys want to just jump in and introduce yourself, that would be great.
I'll kick us off. I am Adrian Mora, and I'm our Senior Director of Regional Services and the Denver region. So in my role, I oversee our regional manager team and also oversee our efforts locally in the Denver region. So that includes family and athlete support, coach support, onboarding of new coaches and volunteers, and generally providing a meaningful experience for all the people that we serve in the Denver region. And I'll kick it over to Michelle.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle Pewters. I am the Western Regional Manager. So that's roughly from Summit County all the way to Durango to Grand Junction and everything in between. It's a pretty big region. And if you are in my region, I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better. And I will go ahead and kick it off to Corey, our Southeast Regional Manager.
Look at that. So my name's Corey. I'm the newbie. I started about a month ago. I'm the Southeast Regional Manager. We're talking like Elbert County down, mostly in El Paso and Pueblo County. So I'm hoping if there's any Southeast regioners, feel free to reach out to me directly, and or Mandy, obviously. But yeah, and then Elizabeth's last. So we'll get Elizabeth on here now.
My name is Elizabeth Aslin. I oversee the Northeast region. That's as far west as Clear Creek and Gilpin, and then all the way up to the corner. I've been here for about a year and I see some friendly names, so I'm excited to get to know you guys better as your kids age into the more competitive programs. Thanks for being here. I don't know who else is on here, so I can't kick it to anybody. Sorry.
I think that was it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Shaka, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself or not. I see you on here.
Shaka Sutton, I'm our Senior VP of our sports and schools programs here at Special Olympics Colorado. Nice to meet all you guys.
Awesome. Thank you. And again, like you said, or Ashton, is obviously part of our young athletes team. It's grown so much. So we're really fortunate enough to have 2 full-time staff now that again can kind of offer more programming, reach more families, and continue to filter in those younger athletes as you guys transition out. So again, as you can see, we have a great group of staff again that are fully committed to this process, and we're working really hard behind the scenes to figure out all of the ins and outs of what's necessary and kind of be able to kind of see what challenges are going to come up and what we're lacking in our teams, or what we need to do to continue to create these opportunities as your kiddos get older and ready to start pursuing whatever sports they choose. So I am going to, from here, I'm going to start sharing a PowerPoint presentation that has lots of valuable information. Again, this is being recorded, so we can always share this out after the presentation, just so you have the information. There's links and email addresses and all of that kind of stuff. So if you guys don't mind also, if you guys have questions that come up, please feel free to jot them in the chat. What we'll probably do is work through the PowerPoint and then take some time towards the end for a Q&A. Again, make sure that you guys have some time towards the end to get all your questions answered. So bear with me really quickly. We're gonna jump to, go back. Go back to the beginning. Sorry, give me 1 minute.
Mandy, if it's easier, since I'm also a host, I have it pulled up if you want me to
Oh,
share it.
perfect. That would be great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just tell me when to click.
Perfect. You can go ahead. I think the next one was our staff introductions. So again, this is just kind of our agenda for the evening. So I'll run through this really quickly. Again, I'm just gonna, most of you guys obviously have been part of Young Athletes, so you're very familiar with that. So we're just gonna briefly review what Young Athletes is and the primary purpose behind that. But then we're really gonna get into more of the new processes that we've put in place, including our new seasonal registration form, give you a sports overview so you know all the different sports that your child can participate in. Just kind of going through the timeline of how our annual events work, how your communication is going to be received, how you're going to find out what events and what sports and all of the communication that you need. We're going to talk about registration versus our athlete application. I know there can be a lot of confusion in that, so we want to make sure that that's clear enough for you guys to understand. And then our regional managers and Adrian are really going to dive into kind of an intro to competition, how our athletes are divisioned, the different levels that we offer, as well as our individual skills opportunities. And then also just really talking about our need for youth coaches. Obviously, parents are a huge part of that and helping us get some of these teams started. And then again, we'll just open up some time for some final questions. So again, this is just talking about, obviously as a staff, we're working really hard to figure out, what that transition process looks like. We know it can be tricky going from, one program to the next and different contacts and different, communication methods and things. So we're really just going to break down kind of the transition and what we're hoping to see and hoping to provide you guys with a smooth, streamlined process as we can. So again, this is kind of just that young athletes overview that I mentioned. So if you guys aren't familiar, so as a child, or our athletes have to be 8 years of age or older to officially start competing. So again, Young Athletes was created to kind of fill that gap for, again, younger families that were under the age of, or, you know, until their child turns 8, that wanted to be part of Special Olympics and get their child involved in developing their sports skills, their gross motor skills, their social skills, those kind of things. So again, was basically designed for kids as young as 2 up until that age of 7. And then once they turn 8, again, we're working to encourage them to transition onto our traditional community teams. But again, hopefully you guys have experienced, you know, through your child's participation in Young Athletes, you've noticed the benefits of it, so that now that they are able and ready to start competing or taking on, you know, joining these traditional teams, they really have a good foundation of gross motor skills that they've, you know, worked on through Young Athletes, as well as their social skills, you know, practicing on different teams and interacting with, you know, children of their same ability and age, and just feeling included as a part of our Special Olympics family. Again, this is a little bit of just an introduction as well. So again, those of you who have been with Young Athletes for a while, a few years ago, we also introduced you to Unified Juniors, which was, again, for ages 4 to 7. But it really kind of went beyond some of those day of events that we traditionally did with Young Athletes, and provided the opportunity for your child to start joining more team-based opportunities, to where they started practicing on a regular basis and having a coach and kind of understanding the team dynamic. So again, right now, Unified Juniors is technically still that 4 to 7, because again, once they do turn 8, then they become eligible to join our traditional teams. And so that's really where the next level begins for you guys. So it'll be that youth component, again, kind of an intro to competition. We know a lot of times when we say competitive, that's a little intimidating, and you guys might not feel like your child's ready for that model. So we're going to dive into a lot of different options for your children once they do turn 8, if they're not ready to compete, or just educating you guys on the different ability levels and divisioning that your child can still transition up, but still be in that intro or individual skills model until they're comfortable and ready to start officially competing.
Yeah, let's stay there, Elizabeth, if you don't mind. So I'll pick it up from here, but just to elaborate a little bit more on what Mandy was saying, the next step in an athlete's transition once they're moving out of Unified Juniors is this competitive model in our youth setting. So for ages 8 to 11 and then 12 to 15. So what we're looking to do is to provide that opportunity for growth in that next stage of their evolution as an athlete, but then still keeping them in with their similar age groups. So they're continue to build those bonds with their peers, and it's just a progressive model on their evolving their evolution as an athlete. So teaching them more sport specific concepts, having them work together in that team setting, building that collaborative environment as team sports tends to do, and then slowly building them to grow into becoming a full-on competitive athlete in both individual and team sports. So the other thing that is offered for athletes that once they move into this 8 and up setting is that they can now compete in all 21 of the sports that we offer at Special Olympics. So we now going into our summer season, we'll be offering cycling, tennis, softball, golf, and bocce. So not all sports that are typically offered through Young Athletes and Unified Juniors. So an additional opportunity to be exposed to more than your traditional team sports. Now, the other thing that I want to touch on is the communication piece is going to vary a little bit moving out from Unified Juniors. So in your Unified Junior setting, you're most likely to hear from Mandy and Ashton and our young athletes team. That's the group that you'll connect with for the majority of your information that comes from Special Olympics. Once you move into this 8 and up setting, you'll be hearing directly from one of the regional managers that were introduced to you at the beginning of the call. We also lean on our coaches pretty heavily to communicate anything, any updates around Special Olympics on our behalf as well. So a lot of the communication around your athlete applications, competition dates, practice dates and times, locations, all that stuff will ultimately come from coaches as well. So that's a progression that you as family members and your athletes will learn to become a little bit more comfortable as you transition into this setting. Now, I'd like to emphasize a little bit more about what competition looks like for us. So let's move on to that next slide. And I do want to touch on individual skills. So there are 2 various opportunities for involvement in competitions. There's your typical team sports. So for soccer, for example, that we're offering now in the spring, that's a 7-on-7 sport. So it's working in those same 7-on-7 concepts, working as a team collectively to compete against another group in your same age range, in that 8 to 11 or that 12 to 15 group, in your traditional 7-on-7 competition. Now there's also individual skills. So this is another opportunity for athletes who are still looking to learn a sport or become more comfortable around a sport. It's a bit of a variation or an adaptation of the Learn To clinics that you may have been exposed to through Young Athletes and Unified Juniors, essentially focusing on core elements of a specific sport. So for basketball, you'll be working on dribbling drills and shooting drills and passing drills, either individually or as a collective unit as a team. So this is an opportunity for any athletes who are still looking to continue to harness those skills and focus on the individual aspects of the sport as they grow into more of the team-based setting. So this gives a wide variety of opportunity for involvement. So just to extend on what Mandy was saying earlier, I know that competitive term can be a little bit alarming or just create some nervousness around that progression. So we do have this opportunity available as well. Our coaches are all familiar with it and trained in it. So this is something that you as an individual can participate on your own. They're offered at regionals and states. And state competitions, we try to make that an adaptation available for as many sports as we have interest in. So now I want to touch on the goals that we're trying to address through transition. So our long-term goal is to create a pipeline of opportunity for athletes to continue their engagement from the time they join us as a young athlete at 2 years old, all the way until they decide to retire. Essentially, we want to create teams of opportunity within one larger, broader umbrella program. Some of you who've already made this transition are becoming exposed to it by having a young athletes team, that 4 to 7 group, already participating with at similar practice times as some of the 8 and ups or the adult athletes. That's we're trying to expose you as family members and the athletes to the coaches who are going to be your long-term coaches season by season over the course of the athletes engagement with us. So that pipeline of opportunity will create that seamless transition so that when an athlete graduates from school or moves on from their young athlete stage, they can continue to engage with that same group of athletes, the same group of coaches, the same family system and support unit that they are familiar with. So it becomes a pretty easy transition for them going onward. So we are looking to create that, same shared practice space as I mentioned, and adding more learn to activities as well, so that we will continue to extend that those concepts that you become familiar with through young athletes season by season, so that they can learn to participate in a new sport that they may not have been exposed to previously. Now I'll move on. One of the things I did want to mention that is a neat area for us in order to be able to properly address transition and create those opportunities for athletes to make that next step and continue to engage with us. It's identifying coach support. This is one of the areas where we do actively look through all the channels available to us to engage new coaches, whether that be our volunteer network or our family support system. So I did want to mention parents as coaches as an opportunity too. So many of these 8 to 15 groups that end up forming are led by parents who have moved on with their athlete out of the young athletes program and continue to engage in that coaching setting. So we're constantly looking for coaches who are parents who are interested in taking that step and become a coach, whether it be an assistant coach and support already an existing head coach with a program, or taking on that full-on responsibility of becoming a head coach. And for anybody who's interested in taking that step, please reach out to your regional manager. We have all our contact information listed in the slide that you'll receive after the call, and we are happy to share a little bit more of what that can look like for you. So we're going to cover a little bit about season registration. Some of you have already been exposed to this. Some of you may be new to this element, but essentially we created season registration as by gathering lots of feedback from coaches and athletes and family members about ways they can continue to stay involved and engage with Special Olympics. So we created a registration process to help athletes and families be able to select and register for sports based around their specific interests, their ability level, their age group, their location, and for us to better address that need so that we can create groups that are in that common setting and that common spirit and ability level and age setting, so that it becomes a little bit more comfortable of a transition for anybody who's making that next step. We run this process seasonally, as it states, and it's open for a 3-month period of time. During that 3-month window, athletes and unified partners, so siblings of any of your athletes who are willing and interested to engage with us, can register for their sport of choice. Then we as regional managers are pairing them based off of their preferences to the sport of their choice. So gives you opportunity to access new sports you may not have been exposed to, find new teams that you may be interested in that weren't available to you in the past. All of these things are available to you by participating in our season registration process. So we're going to share a little bit more about what that looks like and how to complete your registration towards the end of this call. Here's our timeline. So this is currently our summer season timeline. So this is to give you a better expectation of when you can, when registration is open, when we will communicate with you, when the season will start, and all the different things in between. So essentially, summer season registration opens up to our coaches first during February, during the March 1st through May 31st. That's our athlete and unified partner registration window. So you have a 3-month period to determine what you want to do and where you want to participate in, what sports you want to compete in, and then register. During that time, we are actively creating or building our own rosters. So we're sharing those overviews to our coaches so that they become familiar with their rosters early on. We are also working on implementing MedFest. Essentially, a MedFest is an offering that we provide through our Healthy Athletes program, where a clinical director, physician or pediatrician will be able to provide free on-site physical examinations so that athletes can complete their physical examination form and then also complete their athlete application on site so that they become a certified athlete with us that can participate for a 3-year period of time. And that covers them and clears them for participation across all our sports over that 3-year period as well. We provide an athlete and family update prior to the season as well, so that there's a review period for you as athletes and families to make sure that the practice location makes sense for you, that the times and dates align with your schedule, that you've been paired with the proper team that you wanted to reconnect with, or with any of your siblings or other friends who also wanted to participate are also listed on the same roster. So we give that initial review period. So we make sure that we match you with the right team going into the season. And then once the season starts, it starts that first weekend in June, you guys are ready to go. That summer season will run from June 20th to August 15th and culminate with a state competition at the end of the season. For those of you on the Front Range, that will be at the U.S. Air Force Base. And for those of you on the Western Slopes, it'll be at, Michelle, where's it at? I forget.
It's in Grand Junction.
And Grand Junction. Awesome, thank you. All right, so we'll move on from the summer season timeline and shift it over to communication. So I'm going to kick it over to Michelle, who's going to cover a little bit more about how we're going to communicate with you through the registration process.
Sure thing. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I'm getting weird feedback. Mandy, are you good? Yeah. Okay. Adrian, good. Okay. So communication. So when athletes or partners do the seasonal registration, you should receive, if they're brand new to the sport, if they're new as an athlete, you should receive an email directly from your regional manager. So for example, if you're in the Western region, you should be receiving an email from me within that week or two that we received it. And these are the next steps. We are also working on sending a welcome packet. So that is something to look forward to. Returning athletes and partners, you'll receive a general email. So it's not going to be as personable as if you were new, but it will outline the next steps for the season so that you know what to look towards. Okay. And then athletes and partners with expiring athlete applications. I don't even have a dog, so I don't know whose that is. If you wouldn't mind muting yourself, thank you. So athletes and partners with expiring athlete applications or Class A's, we will actually send you an email letting you know. In prior seasons, we've had coaches reach out, so hopefully this will kind of add a little bit more communication from us, as well as have the coach let you know that you're expiring so that you guys can update those in time to compete at a competition. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so communication sample. So this is something that we would send to a new athlete. So I would introduce myself as the Western Regional Manager. We would let you know that you're receiving this email because you signed up for this specific sport in this specific season. And then the email will cover, 1 through 5 on these different steps, as well as what to become or how to become an athlete. So then you'll have a couple of different options. So the first being the MedFest that Adrian briefly covered. We are working really hard to start offering these multiple times per season in different regions. It's going to take a while to get there. So for example, if we only had one for that season and it was in the Western region and you're a Denver athlete and you just can't make it for obvious reasons, you would actually look to the second type of option, and that would give you directions on how to get your physical examination completed by a doctor, whether it be printing it out or whatever it may be, so that you can submit that into your online athlete application later on. The email also would give you the timeline for that specific season. It would give you specific information as far as how we will be communicating with you throughout the rest of the season, that we're going to be adding you to our newsletters, which are super important. Each region has their own specifics so that you as a parent or a caregiver feel like you have knowledge of what's going on throughout the year, whether it be regional or statewide, and of course, just other additional information. Next slide. Okay, and then for the fourth one, we'll give you a little bit more specific information about the season, like you're going to be practicing for around 8 weeks. You might be having to wear masks at this point. So it's very important that you guys do read through so that you know what to expect when you're going to a practice during that season. We'll also let you know any additional athlete opportunities. So maybe, you know, your athletes in the second year transitional stage and they're ready to become an athlete leader or a fitness captain, or maybe they're ready from the get-go the first year. If that's the case, we will give you guys options on a couple of different things outside of just a sport that they can get involved in. And I believe that is all from me. So I will kick it back over to Adrienne.
And I have a quick
That one.
addition.
Yeah.
We had a question asked if programming ends at 15. No, it does not. It goes until your athlete is ready to not participate anymore. So just so you guys know.
Yep, full lifetime of the athlete. So we have athletes who are competing who are well into their 60s and 70s. So
Oh,
as long
Adrian,
as
I think you're getting a bunch of feedback here, at least on my end. I don't know if everyone else is getting Adrian's feedback. Very Darth Vader-esque.
that works.
Yes, I'm getting feedback on my.
Okay.
Adrian, I think you need to like disconnect your microphone and then reconnect your microphone in the settings. I can do this slide while you figure it out if that's helpful. So we wanted to just help you guys with differentiating between registration versus the athlete application in Class A, because sometimes they can kind of accidentally be used interchangeably because the words kind of mean the same thing. When we're talking about registration, we're talking about seasonal registration, which is what we've just gone over in the past few slides. That's going to be sport specific. It's going to be for a specific season. You're going to fill it out in that time frame, the 3 months leading up to the season. That helps us place you on a team, whether that be a team that you're returning to for the season, or you might be trying a new sport and need to find a new team. And then when we're talking about the athlete application, that's going to be the physical exam portion, the thing that is good for 3 years. It puts the athlete underneath the Special Olympics liability insurance. That's really the most important part. So if anything were to happen at a practice or at a competition, you would be underneath our liability insurance. It's also really important just to know every 3 years that the athlete is cleared by their doctor for physical activity. And if there's any limitations to that physical activity. We have an athlete application resource page on our website, and that helps you with the step-by-step process of how to upload the physical exam form. We just recently got a physical exam form translated into Spanish for our Spanish-speaking families, which we're really excited about. So if that's someone's primary language, now we have that as a resource to you. And then for that Class A, it's going to be for unified partners. And that also puts you under our liability insurance. And then for anybody who's over the age of 18, there's also a background check involved. That's going to be for unified partners as well as coaches. We just want to make sure that the people that are around our athletes should be around our athletes and they're good to go. So if you ever hear that you need to renew your athlete application, that's the physical exam and the medical portion of it. And then renewing the Class A for anybody who are participants without intellectual disabilities, that's going to be that side of things. Anything else to add from there? I can move on to the next one, if it lets me. Important links. So when we send this out afterwards, this is going to be your go-to slide for that seasonal registration. There's also a button on the seasonal registration page that you can add your email to a wait list. And really what that means is that you're just going to receive an email when that season's registration is open and available to fill out the form for those sports. So you can fill out the wait list form for the fall and the winter seasons, and you'll be notified when those open. These are all of our athlete application links. That first one is that application resources page that I was talking about that kind of walks you through the step-by-step process. It has frequently asked questions on there. You can also fill out a help desk, which is submitted to our data team that will then either email you or call you to help you with any technical issues, or if you need to check on when your expiration date is for that athlete application. So those are all the important links there. If you do need the specific Spanish form, it should be on the application resources page, or you can reach out to one of your regional managers and we're happy to send you that as well. And then there's the link for the Class A. It's my turn anyways, so I'm glad I'm here and unmuted. So I'm going to pop out of this one and switch tabs. So to get to the seasonal registration, there's a couple different ways. You can click on Get Involved, and it will bring you to just our general Get Involved page, and it's going to walk you through. Clicking Compete gets you to the registration page. It walks you through different either registering for the summer season, or this is what I was talking about with that wait list. So this is probably the quickest way to get there. The other way that you can get there is just typing in our website /seasonal registration, all one word, and it'll bring you straight to the seasonal registration page. I'm going to walk you. Oh, go ahead.
Still sound like Darth Vader.
Yeah, you still sound like a robot.
It's also on the homepage.
Yep, it should be on the homepage as well. So if you just go to our General Special Olympics page, it should just be a main banner right here. So you can click on Learn More, and it brings you to that seasonal registration page I was talking about. So this is what the summer form looks like for those of you that may not have filled it out yet. It just walks through all the instructions. It helps to differentiate between the registration versus the athlete application, just as a reminder of what I just was talking about. It has all of our information. So looks like we need to add Corey to here and update it from Adrian. We'll have to tell Leah that. So Denver is Adrian, and then Corey is going to be the Southeast since he's the newbie. Like he said, he was not on this form originally, but now he's here. Here's me and Michelle, and then we also have Mandy and Ashton because this is also used for that 4 to 7 group. We ask about vaccination status, not because it's going to prevent you from participating or not. There was just a request from some coaches and some families that were just curious about it because of various health concerns with people on their team or family members. So please know that this does not prevent you from participating. We do not require vaccination for Special Olympics Colorado participation in general. But obviously you can prefer not to answer as well. You would select your region if you're unsure. You can click on this page where it takes you to the regions page and it lists out all of the counties. You're going to put the athlete or partner's first name, last name, their date of birth, whether they're an athlete or a partner. Primary email address, this is where we're going to be primarily communicating through. So if the athlete has their own email address, but also the parent wants to be on there, you can separate it with that semicolon in here and we'll be able to send to both. But just put the email in here that you know is going to be checked. So if it's an athlete that's in school, maybe don't put their school email address on there if they don't check it super often, just so they don't miss anything. Primary phone number, this would be how we would reach you if we have any follow-up questions. Mailing address is where we're going to send a welcome packet if you are new to us. It also helps us to map out where you live in relation to a practice location, because as you'll see lower on here, when you choose here, there's some conditional formatting on here, but you're able to choose, I'll scroll back, I promise. You're able to choose how far you're willing to travel for that practice. So having your exact address really helps us as a staff team to make sure that we're staying within that driving distance. So it's for the welcome packet for new folks, but it's also to help us to map out where you live in relation to practice locations. On here, you'll see that you can only select one sport at a time. Right now, we have it set up where you do need to submit multiple forms for multiple sports in a season. Hopefully, we'll be able to figure it out technologically to not have it be multiple forms. But right now, this is the way we're going. So you'll see that there are a couple that are just for 8 and up, but then everything else is for all ages. Here, you're going to indicate whether you're new and it's your first time, you're not new, but you're new to the sport, you're returning and you'd like to be on the same team that you were previously, or you're returning and you need to switch teams or are interested in switching teams. By clicking one of these options, it's going to bring up a different list. So I'm going to start with I'm returning. Since you're all here, that probably means that you were already on our email list. I can go back and just check that it doesn't look any different for the new. Just a note, if you don't see your team listed below in here, so it's by sport, team name, the coach is in parentheses, and then the region. If you don't see a team listed here, there is a space towards the bottom where you can put specific athletes or partners or a specific coach right here. But you can also just type out your team name or type out your coach as it says, and that will help us place you on the team that you want to be on or that you were previously on. So you would choose something here. You're going to choose your ability level. And really the reason that we ask for this is to make sure that we're not placing your athlete or your partner on a team that doesn't match their skill level. So they might be brand new to the sport. They might have never played softball before, and we definitely don't want to put them on an advanced softball team because that wouldn't be fun for anybody. So just choosing this, we can always change it around. They're obviously going to grow during the season. So this doesn't, it's nothing that we're judging. It's really just helping us place people on teams. The participants' age range, you're just going to choose the age range. It is helpful for you to choose the age that they're going to be during that season. So if you can remember that or kind of think 3 months ahead, that does help us because that's going to be what applies during the season. Again, this is where you can put other people, other athletes, other unified partners, a specific coach's name right here. And then if you don't see your team in that drop-down list, you can type it out there. And then, as I mentioned, putting the distance that you're willing to drive here. This will help us to place you on a team within that. And if if there's something that's 16 miles away from you, a regional manager might give you a call just to make sure that that's okay. Selecting your shirt size is going to help out with coaches when they're ordering uniforms. It might be that we have to put in an order for uniforms before the practices even start and they don't have time to collect your shirt sizes. So this just helps us have everything together there. This is just an acknowledgement that, as we mentioned at the top of this meeting, it's vital to have coaches to lead those teams. So this is just acknowledging that if we are forming a new team, if you're not returning to an existing team, or maybe if the team that you were on, the coaches aren't there anymore, or they have retired from coaching, the placement on a team is contingent on having coaches. So just acknowledging this. And then obviously, like we also mentioned at the top of the meeting, having parents as coaches is always helpful, obviously not required, but if you are interested, we'd love to have you. And that's what this question is, if you are willing to coach as a parent or as a caregiver. And then you would submit it here. And then I just want to make sure that by selecting new, so really by selecting new, it just changes it from the drop-down menu of teams to just skipping right to ability level, age group, and then anyone that you want to be matched with there. So that's the end of that. And I think we're just going into, it started over. That was not what I wanted. We'll just go into any questions and I'll, Mandy or Robot Adrian, if you want to unmute and help out.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oops.
You're good.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So again, that's kind of an overview, kind of the next steps for you guys and your future youth athletes on these traditional teams. So we can certainly open it up to any questions. You guys can either write them in the chat or feel free to unmute and just ask your question. We can take probably the next 10 minutes or so. If there's any specific questions, if you're not comfortable asking questions, obviously you can also reach out to us via email to your regional manager, or Ashton and I, again, can still be that middleman until you're connected with your regional manager. So does anybody have any specific questions they would like to ask?
I did. Hi, I'm Michelle. When you sign up, for the, like how advanced or intermediate or new, how are you supposed to kind of judge, I guess? Like, could you explain, is it like they've been playing for years, or I don't really know how to qualify, I guess.
We
Yeah,
put a
that's a
little
good
bit of
question.
descriptions under there, I believe. I can reshare just so you can see what the descriptions say. They're very general descriptions. The fundamental level would be it's introductory, they're learning the skills. As it says, it's the best option for any new athletes who are new to the sport or need any additional like physical support, including athletes that may utilize any mobility devices like a wheelchair or crutches or anything like that. So that would be the best one there if they're brand new to the sport. For beginner, that's just putting them in more of a slower paced game. Athletes are just still learning the sport. They need more support from coaches or unified partners. And then it just kind of moves up from there. This is more so applicable to team sports like softball and things like that. So if it's more of an individual sport, this doesn't matter quite as much, but we just ask it as a blanket statement to help us place them on teams. But if it becomes an issue, like if you put them at way too high of a level, or if you want to be like, oh no, I didn't mean to put intermediate or anything like that, we're happy as regional managers, or Mandy and Ash are also happy to walk through those skill levels with you. It really doesn't lock you into anything. It just helps us know, you know, there's this like varsity level team that could play against a high school varsity basketball team. And if you're a brand new basketball player, more at that fundamental or beginner level, we don't want to put them on a team with them because that's not setting them up for success. So I don't know if any of the other staff have anything to add there.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Carrie Droller. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
hi Carrie.
Hi, just two quick questions. One, when it comes to all the dates and deadlines, is that information available on the website? Like when you need to register by and when to expect to hear from the coach and when the season starts? Are those, I know you guys showed, I think, the dates on the slides. Are those also available on the seasonal registration page?
Yes.
Are.
Okay, yay, great.
And they will also come with that follow-up email.
Okay.
You will get a follow-up email from it. It can be from any one of us, but a follow-up email will come through of next steps, make sure application's done and things like that. So yes.
Okay, great. And then my other quick question, when choosing sports, is there a way to have any visibility into location and like time and place of the sport? Because sometimes I find we, sign up for a bunch and then realize they don't work with our schedule, or it's, a 40-minute drive away. So is there any way to get it sort of advanced visibility into that when picking sports?
In the future, yes. That's a project that we're working on. We're working on having a map on our website that has all the sports, all the teams, and their general practice information. We're actually gathering that information from seasonal registration each season with the coaches that register so that we can make that map. So winter 2023 is the goal, to have all 4 seasons worth of the teams that participated in 2022 on that map.
Okay. And in the meantime, could we just email the regional manager and say, hey, we're interested in softball. Do you know when and where this is going to be?
Yep. Yeah. And like we said in one of the slides, we will have a preliminary check-in with families towards the end of May for everybody that's already registered, that we've already placed. For us to say, hey, this is the team that we're planning on placing you with, and this is their practice information. And if it doesn't work, then we'll just kind of take a couple steps back and start looking at a different team, or there might be a need to start a brand new team. If there's, maybe 5 athletes that all can't make that practice time, maybe there's a need to start a new one. So we'll hopefully be able to get that figured out about a month before the season starts. That's the plan, but it's not going to be perfect. But if you have any very rigid schedule needs that you want us to be aware of beforehand, definitely reach out to the regional manager and we'll make sure to make note of that on your registration form.
Got it. Thank you.
There's There's a couple of questions in the chat I'm going to throw out if you guys don't mind. The first one is, does the age group of the unified partner have to match the age group of the participant or the athlete?
Do you want to try, Adrian? I feel like you have an answer ready.
Sure. Do I still sound like a robot?
You're good.
All right. Success. So ideally, we want them to be within the same age group. There are some exceptions that we were able to make, but we do want to keep the interests of everybody in mind. So for athletes who are over the age of 8 and have a sibling within a year of that athlete, we would be open to moving them up. But we really do want to avoid like a 4-year-old participating on a team that's 8 to 12, because then that just creates the opportunity for risk and injuries. So as best as we're able, we do want to keep those age groups as close as possible. But the age group of 8 to 11 and 12 to 15 can go that entire range of 8 up to 15 as possible. So it's not a clearly defined answer, but that's something that we can work on case by case with your regional manager in those scenarios that do arise.
Adrian, I'm sorry, I was the one that asked that question, but I was thinking more the opposite.
Oh,
Like
okay.
if you have a 5-year-old that has a 10-year-old brother, like, are you look like the opposite of that?
Yeah. In that setting, actually that's a better question for you, Mandy. Do you want to answer how that would work in a young athlete setting?
Yeah, I think in those terms, if it's an older sibling that's substantially older than their sibling, we would maybe, I mean, my suggestion would maybe be to work more of like an assistant coach capacity, like a volunteer versus like a partner on the team. Like I think they could help them at practice, working on their skills and things like that. But I think in terms of when we actually do our mock scrimmages or our games or whatnot, we would use them more in a volunteer, like a coach capacity versus on the court or on the field with the team. Does that make sense?
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah, you bet. Our next question is, what if we choose the wrong skill level on the registration? Can they still move teams after the season starts?
Yep, definitely. So a couple options. If you accidentally select it and it's still within the registration window, just email your regional manager. We'll be able to adjust that easily. If it's after the season starts and you find out that you've attended 1 or 2 practices, the team isn't the right fit for you, it's just not the right setting, also contact the regional manager. We will do our best to find you another opportunity.
Awesome. The next one, can they register for more than 1 sport per season?
Definitely. The only challenge becomes when state competitions and regional competitions come around, if those competition dates are at the same time. So for example, we have Front Range Spring Games coming up where swimming and track and field are taking place on the same date. An athlete would have to choose one sport or the other to compete in at a competition. However, they can still practice with both teams. They just need to make that decision. And then that decision needs to be the same from regional to state.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it has to transfer over. Thanks, Adrian.
Perfect. And there's one more in the chat. How can an additional email address be added for an athlete if we did not add it to the application?
Elizabeth, do you want to show them that?
In the application, you can separate it by the semicolons, but if you need to add another email, feel free to reach out to the regional manager of the region that you're in, and we can just manually type in that email into your registration form. We just export everything into an Excel document right now, so it's pretty easy to edit the skill level and things like that after you submit. or if you want to submit a second one, you can, and just make a note on there, like use this one, and we can make sure to just delete the other one. That would be the easiest way. So either on the form, separate it with semicolons or a comma, and then, but if you submit it and think about it afterwards, just reach out to your regional manager. And I can show you actually while I'm unmuted how to get to that regions page, not when you're on the registration form. So you don't have to just use that. So let me do that really quick. So from the home page, you just hover over get involved and then click on regions. You can either choose one of the regions or just go to the regions page. And towards the bottom, or first you'll see a map. It has all of them separated out by county. You can click on the little dot of the region, or all of these have all of the counties listed out, and you can click on one of these and then it brings you to that region's page, and it has all of our information. So it has those counties again, it brings you to the competition page, any recordings, athlete information, my email, my phone number. You can add yourself to the region's newsletter as well.
Perfect.
One thing to note,
oh,
sorry, as you're
that's okay.
completing the form, it's important that the primary email is the main correspondent that's going to be connecting with your regional manager. That's how we're gonna. That's the first point of contact that we're gonna have with you. Always can add a second one, but we often find if you're the primary care provider and the decision maker for an athlete, we want to make sure that we're communicating with you directly.
Next question. I have signed up for the MedFest on May 14th. Is there anything I need to do or fill out before going to the MedFest?
You're good to go. Show up and they'll be able to take you through all the stages of completing the MedFest. So at the MedFest, you'll have a physician or a pediatrician on site. They'll first conduct the physical examination form, and then we'll have somebody on site as well who will be able to help you in completing, uploading your physical exam as part of the athlete application and submitting your athlete application. So once you've attended, you will be all set for 3 years.
Perfect. And there's one more regarding the unified partner question. If your unified partner is 7 and the athlete is 10, can the 7-year-old partner move up?
Yes, we can make that exception.
I think that's all the questions that are in the chat. Is there anyone else that has anything they would like to ask? We're getting close to our hour mark here, but we can certainly answer a few more if there's anybody lingering questions.
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, how flexible are the teams as far as like if an athlete's going to be gone for, like a couple weeks for a vacation?
Pretty flexible. Ideally we want 8 weeks of practice leading up to a state competition. I would say 5 or 6 would be the minimum expectation that we would ask. But if you're missing them over the course of that period of time, you're fine. It's just communicating with your coaches and letting them know when you'll be attending. Challenges become if you're missing dates where they're capturing scores that are going to be used for regional and state competitions. But as long as you are communicating that with your coaches, they can make those accommodations around your schedule.
Okay. And then for athletes that are 2 to 7, you have the Learn To classes. My son is 10, but there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't know how to do yet. And is there anything like that for someone who's older?
Yep. Mandy?
Yeah, so we've decided, we understand that that's the case for a lot of families, especially if you're brand new to Special Olympics or you're just getting involved. So we are still going to extend those opportunities probably until about the age of 12. You may not receive them directly from Ashton, who does the young athlete communication, but we're going to start collaborating more with the regional managers to include those opportunities in the regional newsletters. So you'll still get that information. It'll just eventually come from the regional manager instead of Ashton.
And for example, that will include Harvest Fest. Clearly, that's a fundraiser for everybody. But Harvest Fest, the plane pull, foam plunge, Young Athletes Summer Camp, those are all things that we're going to be keeping 2 to 12. And so as that communication shifts from us to your regional managers, we will make sure that anything that applies to you will have that age range of who's allowed to show up. So it'll say summer camp 2 to 12, learn to ice skate 2 to 12, things like that. So you guys know what your child can still participate in. But so yes, we will still be able to offer those things until the age of 12.
And then on the adult side, we're also working on creating more clinic series that we can offer around other sports as well. So we are going to be launching a rather robust golf clinic series this summer that's going to have 19 different golf clinics all around the state, primarily across the Front Range with a handful out in on the western slopes. So those opportunities are varying currently, but an effort that we're looking to increase. But that communication will continue to come from regional managers to share those opportunities and how you can sign up and get engaged. But those are just other opportunities for after 12 years old that you can continue to engage in to learn and grow.
And correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of those are also promoted on social media, right?
That's right.
Around
Yep.
Facebook pages, our website.
Yep, which is a really great point. Each of the regions have their own social media pages on Facebook, and are we on, is it just Facebook? Just Facebook. So if you want to follow the specific regions on Facebook, and then also our just Special Olympics Colorado State Chapter handle, you'll be able to receive some more accurate updates on all the events we have going on, all the different clinics, all the fundraisers that we have taking place, and ways you can engage.
And in the follow-up email that I'll send out in the next couple days, I'll do a link to this recording. I'll do a link to all the region Facebooks so you guys can find your region's Facebook and like them, get comfortable with their pages. And anything else you guys may need, follow-up information, I'll add the regional managers' emails and stuff. So we'll make sure you guys are good to go with that follow-up email in the next couple days.
I may have missed it.
Oh, go ahead. No, you're good. Go ahead.
Just to follow up with the continuation of the young athletes up to 12, how do we notate that on the application? Or is that just kind of something that will be extended if we put like they're working on fundamental individual skills to link back to that?
There is
Does
an
that make sense?
option. Yeah, absolutely. There is an option that if you were to drop down, if they were a returning athlete and their team doesn't show up, there's I think it's number 15 where you can write in specifics about that team. So let's say that that's the scenario and we don't have a team for them yet, or whatever the case may be, you can always add that into that number 15 on the application. I'm sorry, the registration, so that we know that that's where you're wanting to go. Perfect. Thank you. That's, yep, exactly. And the number 15 will show you, if you go scroll down a little bit more specifics that you can add, so we know where to place them. Does that answer your question?
I think so. It's one of those things. I signed up for young athletes for my daughter. We never did any sports, so I've been getting like all of the communications. But she just turned 8, and we're very much like at that still fundamental skill. Like she loves to swim, but we're still really working on stuff. You know, like I think she would love ice skating, but you know, she's never done it. So I think that extension piece would be kind of like right about where she would be at.
Okay. Yep. Perfect. So that's definitely how you would go about that.
Awesome. I think that's all of the questions in the chat. Does anybody else have any specific questions we can answer before we end the call? All right. Well, like Ashton said, we did record this and we will be able to email out the link so you guys can access this at a later time, just to, again, revisit any answers, questions that might come up. Again, by no means are you guys being cut off from me and Ashton. We're just working on this process, again, to create your connections with the regional managers. So if you do have specific questions, Ash and I can always, again, continue to make those connections and help you find the right person and help you get all of those questions answered. So don't hesitate to email us if questions do come up. And hopefully going into the summer season, you guys will really be able to get connected with some of our community teams and start making connections with those coaches. And we're really excited to see your young athletes thrive and grow and continue just to, again, make those connections and just continue to build their skills. And we can't wait to eventually watch them compete and take part in our traditional events. So anybody else? Anybody else?
I just want to piggyback on that real quick. So this is a new, growing, and evolving space for us. So we welcome all the feedback that you're willing to offer. Anything that you're open to sharing about your experience with your team, your experience with registration, your experience with us as regional managers. All of that is going to be helpful for us to be able to best cater for you all and continue to adapt and grow this transition piece for you and then the next generation of athletes moving on from young athletes. So always open to that feedback. And then also just be patient with us as we continue to grow this opportunity as well. So we're gonna, based off of the feedback that we receive, we're gonna continue to make adjustments. We're gonna continue to try to provide additional opportunities so that we can make this a more meaningful, well-rounded experience for all. So we're all very excited to have you join us and excited to continue to build those relationships with you all.
And as always, feel free to email me. I will make sure you get right where you need to be.
All right. Thank you guys so much. It was a pleasure having you. We appreciate your time tonight.
Nice
Have a
meeting
good
everybody.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I miss you.
Oh, we miss you.
You know who I am?
I can't quite tell.
Can't see.
Scoff.
You'll have to remind me. I just see a picture of your mom, I think.
Yeah, I can't get the camera to bump up. The bandwidth thing on this computer. But this is Steve. He did Young Athletes with you
Hey,
guys.
that's right. How are you, buddy?
He could see you, so for him, he thinks you can see him.
We miss
But-
you too, bud.
I want to see what they're gonna watch. All right.
Hopefully we'll see you a lot more soon, okay?
You guys have a good evening. It was a great.
All right,
visit.
guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye,
Thank
Steve.
you.